Hey, what's up, guys? It is me, the voice of Shadow, Jules AF here, and welcome to a different type of video. Now, usually you all know that at the end of the day, I'm a character channel. I don't usually do out-of-character content here on this channel. I prefer doing things, in the style of Shadow, trying to maintain that illusion of being the character. But I thought today would be a special occasion because the Sonic movie just came out, and as of the time I'm uploading this, it'd be out in America. I got the opportunity to see it earlier compared to everyone else because it just came out yesterday, in fact, in Australia, and I got to see it with two of my friends, Infinite and Metal. Basically, the voice actors behind the Metal Sonic channel and the Infinite the Jackal channel. We just saw it yesterday, and I just came back from watching my second showing of the film. I watched it twice now. Originally, I did record a review of this yesterday, but I felt as if I needed to watch the second film. I needed to watch the film a second time before I could release my overall thoughts on it. So now I have a clearer mindset after watching it this time. Now, before I continue with this review, I'm going to be reviewing this movie under two mindsets, essentially. One of which is that of a movie critic. I'm going to be critically analyzing this movie, what I honestly thought about it, and how I thought about it as a Sonic fan. The second time I watched it, I did decide to have a good time and not be critical. So, I'm going to give you my complete honest thoughts of the movie. Now, I'm not going to say any spoilers in this, so you don't have to worry about that one. Although, if I'm being honest, the movie does spoil a lot in terms of the trailer, so there's not really much for me to talk about. But still, I'm not going to mention anything, maybe a couple of plot details, but stuff that was already apparent from the trailers alone. So, in any case, enjoy the review. Alright, so probably the most important thing to talk about when it comes to a Sonic movie adaptation is, how was the plot? How were they able to adapt Sonic into our real world? Well, essentially, I like to view this movie as Sonic X, but better. Because Chris is not in it, so it's automatically 10 times better. But now, in all seriousness, the film itself had a very basic plot. I wouldn't say it's anything intricate like Pablo Picasso type cinematic, changing history like Parasite. It's something along the lines of a typical basic film, a typical family film. It doesn't try to be anything different, nor does it try to be a masterclass of work, and I'm pretty okay with that. I have no problem with the film taking a complete different direction. If you guys aren't familiar, the plot takes place on Earth. Sonic gets trapped on our world after escaping from his home world and has no way of getting back or no way of escaping Earth. After the government finds out about his presence, they send somebody after him, Dr. Robotnik, in order to track him down. Along the way, Sonic meets up with the police officer Tom, and they both go on adventures together, trying to get Sonic to go home. That's pretty much the basic bare bones of the plot. Basically, Sonic trying to find his way home, except in a 2-hour-long movie, and not in a 4-season-long series that lasted way too long. So, what did I think of the characters in general? Don't expect much from the plot. The plot was pretty basic for a family film. Basically about friendship and family, and basically all that serious business. I felt as if the plot was one of the weak points of the film, honestly. I felt as if the film was too short for me. The runtime is actually not that long in the meantime. It's 100 minutes, which is pretty decent. But at the end of the day, I felt as if they could have done a little more with a couple of scenes. Like, for example, they introduced a couple of plot points, one of which being exploring Sonic's past, his childhood. Now, this is a type of thing that's never been explored much in the video games. What was Sonic's childhood like? This Sonic has a completely different experience and lives in a completely different world than his video game adaptation. And I thought it would have been quite interesting to explore a little more of that origin story, and to explore more of Sonic's world. We've never seen much of that before. But of course, it was only reserved for a 1 to 2 minute clip, and it still worked in the film, definitely. But I felt as if they definitely should have explored a little more of Sonic's past. And that's basically one of the few problems I have. Basically, more or less, more time spent on development rather than getting the plot going, because that's exactly what this movie is. Exposition met with just constant, plot comings. I completely said it wrong, but anyway, let's continue with the next part, and probably the most important thing of this movie. How was Sonic? Was Sonic great? Did the designers finally do a great job with not only his design, but the CGI in this movie? Well, if you were to tell me, back earlier last year, that the film was going to have a design that not only completely outranks the video game design, but also writes a Sonic that's not only more relatable, but acts more like Sonic than we've ever had in any other adaptation of the character, then needless to say, I'm completely sold. Ben Schwartz in the movie, my man, you were fantastic. I couldn't get over about how great they did Sonic in this movie. The emotion, the characters, everything that Sonic did in this movie, they finally nailed down one aspect of the character that's been lacking in all adaptations of Sonic. He actually feels like a 15-year-old in this movie. If I were to ask a random casual Sonic fan, say someone who randomly just plays the game for fun, if I were to tell him that Sonic was 15 years old, he probably wouldn't believe me, because that's the biggest problem with the modern adaptation of Sonic. Not only is he cocky and arrogant, and most of the problems in the plot are caused by his shortcomings, but one of which being for the fact that he doesn't act like a 15-year-old. He just acts like a typical, adult, you would per se. I don't have a problem with Roger Craig Smith. I feel like Roger Craig Smith gets too much hate in the community. I really like him as a voice actor. I just don't think he's given the right material. I feel as if that goes for a lot of characters in the Sonic franchise at the moment. I have no problem with Roger Craig Smith, but Ben Schwartz, man, my gosh, was he amazing. His voice acting work was perfect, and the way they wrote Sonic in this movie was so good. He's youthful. He does the flossing in the movie. Like he flosses like in Fortnite. Wish I was joking about that, but he acts like a kid. He's a kind, spirit-hearted kid. He's not cocky. He's not arrogant. And the plot doesn't happen because of his stupidity. He's legitimately a kid, and I love that. They finally fixed an aspect of Sonic that's always been overlooked, and I can't thank the filmmakers enough for creating a version of Sonic that, in my eyes, is superior to the video game version in almost every way. I can say this for certain. Ben Schwartz is Sonic for me now. He is the definitive Sonic, not only because of the way they wrote him, but also because how they developed this character throughout the movie. It was great. Him trying to find his new purpose in life, then at the very end realizing that the thing that he's been missing the most is friends. It's so perfect. It completely fits Sonic, and I love that. I love that, and I'm just really happy that Roger Craig Smith did such a great job playing a Sonic. And now, to address the elephant in the room, Jim Carrey. Probably the only thing that this movie had going for it. Even with the horrible original design from the Sonic movie, there's one thing that nobody could deny. Jim Carrey looked amazing, and I think Jim Carrey was one of those few casting choices where you're unsure about it when they first announced it. Granted, I had an issue with it myself, but after the first trailer came out, I completely had faith in him, that he was going to carry this movie, no pun intended, but he was... I'm sorry, guys, but he is the best Eggman, the best Eggman we've ever gotten. It beats the video game versions. It beats every adaptation of the character. This is Jim Carrey is the definitive Eggman. Not only were his jokes funny, but he was amazing. The energy he brings to the role is so vibrant and alive. The way he delivers some of his jokes and his lines. This film definitely wouldn't have been as good as it was if it was another actor playing Eggman. Jim Carrey brought Dr. Robotnik to life in this film. He was definitely the character that got the most laughs out of the theater. It was great. He was fantastic. Jim Carrey was the best thing about this movie. It completely carried the movie. I can't wait to see what they do with Eggman next. That was one of my favorite things about this movie. Now, I'm going to go to the supporting cast here, because I'm going to be completely honest with you. They really did nothing besides Tom. Tom, on the other hand, is the police officer that accompanies Sonic throughout the movie. What did I think of his character? He was fun. He was a great character to have. Is he an original character? Is he someone that we've seen before in these types of movies? Yeah, he's pretty stereotypical. He's definitely not an original character, of course, or an original idea. But did they implement him in the film well? In my honest opinion, yeah, I really like the dynamic that Sonic and Tom shared. They really felt like they developed such a close friendship together. And I could definitely see that blossoming throughout a movie trilogy, because let's be honest, this movie's gonna get sequels regardless if there's an after-credit scene or not. It's kind of obvious. Tom was definitely a great selling point to the movie. Not only did he deliver some of the best jokes, but also delivered some of the best moments in the movie. The interactions between him and Sonic are great, and I can't wait to see more of them in the future. Now, addressing the parts I really didn't like about the movie. The soundtrack was bland. I didn't necessarily like how they mixed in the soundtrack with the film. I feel like it could have been utilized way more, and in my honest opinion, I have a very unpopular opinion about this, by the way, but I felt as if they should have adapted the old music from the classic games and just remake them with modern day instruments. I felt as if that could have been a really good callback in multiple occasions. The second thing I have a big problem with, and this is not necessarily a big problem, is how they implemented Sonic's boost ability / formula. If you guys aren't familiar with, Sonic in modern history has had a history of something called boost, which basically gives him the ability to run areas at super fast speeds. It's mainly found in modern games and not even in the classic games. But they implemented that as a huge selling point for this movie, turning him into the Flash with electricity, but I felt as if it could have been implemented better. Now, don't get me wrong, to a lot of people I watched the film with, they had no problem with how the boost formula was handled in this movie. This is pretty much just me personally giving my thoughts on it as me being a Sonic fan. It could have been implemented a lot better. It just came out of nowhere, and it was just mainly there to serve for one reason: plot armor. Sonic getting a power-up. I could see more parallels to Dragon Ball now than ever with the Sonic franchise with this boost. They treated it like a Super Saiyan transformation, where it only really mattered when the situation called for it, when Sonic's emotions went wild. Now, in a way, this could work, but personally for me, I felt as if they really could have handled it better. Another thing I want to talk about in the film is, like I said, it focuses on the wrong areas of the plot. It definitely feels as if it's focusing on the wrong areas, and it could have expanded a lot more on not only backstory, but also could have developed the characters way more because of it. Now, like I said earlier in this review, I went into this movie with two completely different mindsets. The first time I watched it, I reviewed it critically. What did I think of it as not only a casual moviegoer, but how would I analyze this as a critic? Well, sadly to say, the Sonic movie isn't a great movie. It's a pretty average family kids film. And at the end of the day, this film is not made for my audience. This film is not made for someone who is 19 years old. It's made for kids. And at the end of the day, isn't that all that matters? You know, if I saw this movie as a kid, 100% I would have loved it. I would have thought it was one of the best things in the world, and who knows, maybe I would have actually gotten into Sonic as a kid if I saw this. It's a nice family film. But of course, with me being an adult now, of course, me being overly critical when it comes to films, it's a pretty average, generic family film that you'll probably find in like a retail bin, in a couple years' time in your local supermarket, something like that. It's one of those type of films. But I really did have a good time. And the second time I watched this film, I came into the mindset of being a Sonic fan. What was it like being a Sonic fan seeing this movie? And I have to say, it was a fantastic experience. Not only did it completely improve Sonic and Eggman's character, but also expanded on Sonic's chemistry with Eggman. You see them evolve more as rivals, and you can clearly understand why Eggman has such a huge gripe with Sonic, and I love that. However, in my complete honest opinion, that isn't enough to carry the film from a critical standpoint, because the only way, in my personal opinion, you could really appreciate the writing between Eggman and Sonic is if you're a Sonic fan yourself, because you understand the history these characters have. Not just that, but you understand their interactions in the video games. The reason why I appreciate Ben Schwartz and Jim Carrey so much in this film is because not only do they do original takes on the characters, but they completely redefined the characters, wrote them with more personality, and in my opinion, made them better characters as a result, far superior than that of the video games. But of course, you would never know that unless you're a Sonic fan. I felt as if that was the biggest problem with the film. A lot of the things that I personally loved about it, you can't necessarily appreciate unless you're a Sonic fan. And to me, that's really a shame. That's really a shame. So if I were to analyze this film critically, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. However, if you are a Sonic fan like me, there's no doubt in mind that you will enjoy this movie, which is why, as a Sonic fan, I give it a 7 out of 10. Take both ratings as you will. It's a very strange way of me critically analyzing the film, but I really wanted to just bring a new perspective to this, not only as a Sonic fan, but also as a casual moviegoer. Do I think this film has a lot of potential? Yes, and I can't wait to see what they do for the sequel, because like I said, a sequel is inevitable. But what did you guys think of the movie? Did it live up to your hype? Because at the end of the day, my opinion does not matter. I just want to give my opinion and my thoughts about the movie, and who knows, maybe I could convince some people to see something in the film that they never saw before, and give them a brand new perspective, or just solidify their hate comments in this post. whatever you're there for. Thanks for watching. I might do a spoiler review someday. I have a lot to talk about in terms of spoilers, but overall, I thought the Sonic film was a completely average film. I don't think it changes anything in terms of the video game adaptation movie industry. I think it's just a nice film with Sonic. And if you were young, you would have loved it so much. But I did have a good time. I had a lot of fun watching it with friends. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. And I know, happy Valentine's Day. I should have mentioned that at the start of the video, but the Valentine's Day special will be coming out a day late tomorrow. I wanted to release this review as soon as possible and get my own 2 thoughts about it, but seriously guys, thank you so much. And as always, I'll talk to you next time.